share, go live, share. So this is cool. Okay, so I hope that you see. Yes, you do. Awesome. Let me make sure that I set up everything. Those, who is celebrating Remembrance Day? Here in Canada, it's Remembrance Day. I know that in my family in France, we could call it another word, and we don't commemorate exactly the same things. But no matter what, I was thinking, because I'm telling my students, use whatever's going on in the world, or if there is a commemoration or something, what is the story you could share about what's going on. So today, Remembrance Day here in Canada, and we say le 11 Novembre in France. So it's kind of, I was thinking, how can I share my story around it so that I can talk about two persons that I really, really miss. And those are my two grandfathers. So I went to Canva, no kidding. I went to Canva. And I'm like, oh my God, because I don't have any photos here. I moved in Canada 20 years ago, and I didn't bring photos, and, I was trying to get my parents to send me some, but it was too complicated. So I said, okay. So literally here, it's my father's dad. And he was round like that, and he was bald, and he had a big face like that, and he was very funny. And he did the Second World War, and that's kind of close from his, shape. And this one is my mom's grandfather, so that's Victor, and that's Henri. So Victor here didn't have any glasses unless he was reading, and no mustache. But those two person, they taught me, who I am, today. So I'm gonna show you, how I told you that I'm really working on sharing more stories and sharing more about social media love, which is, my business. And I'm gonna show you how I became a social media consultant for women thought leaders, the secrets to make a serious impression. And I'm gonna start with my grandfathers, because before they died, Henri told me, he knew that he was going to exit, and he told me something that is always in my mind, especially when I go through hard time, or I am in the middle of building my business, and I'm like, what am I doing? It's so hard, right? So he told me, you know what, Angelique, whatever life you have, I want you to know that you have to live it at the fullest. Do everything you want to do, because when you're about to die, you're gonna die. And it was like, do whatever you want to do. Make sure you don't injure yourself. That's the only thing he said. But do anything you want to do. And even if you don't know exactly what you want to do now, just do whatever you want to do whenever you want to do it. And that got stuck in my mind. So I always think about that. And, he was in his bed, not feeling well. And it took the energy that it takes when you're sick, right, to tell me this. And I'm sorry, there is a bad connection, I think. It says connection is weak. So, and then Victor, he is, what really struck me about him, and he did, when I was a little girl, he was telling me about, the bombs and everything. And it was like, really heart-taking. But what I found is that as he was getting older and older, and then he lost his wife, there was always consistency in his life. He would take his cane and walk until, I think, the week he died. He walked 30 minutes every day on the little street where he was living, no matter what, the weather, the life circumstances, he would always go for that 30 minutes walk. And for me, we know consistency is the rule of thumbs for success, right? For any success, personal, professional, business level, anything. So that's why I'm basing that presentation that I do to you today in the name of my grandfather, Henri, that I was calling Pépé de Dreux, and my grandfather, Victor, Pepe de Fontaine, who both went through the war and both told me the worst thing that you can go through in life is war. So they didn't tell me that when they were together in the same room, but at different time in conversation when I was, smaller and then teenager and adult, is they said, the only thing I don't want you to go through is a war. Okay, so that's why I wanted to introduce them to you, because they're really special to me. And if you've been following me for a while, I want you to know where I'm coming from, where this is coming from. So before we start, I want to learn your story too, right? I'm going to share my story about, the journey of how I became a social media consultant or coach, whatever you call it. And I want to make sure that you find a way to tell me your story, whether you go public like this or you tell me we can hop on a call or something. I want to know the story of what happened before you decided to run your business or create your business, or because there's behind every entrepreneur or business owner, there is a story that is a secret well kept. And you know what? The tricky thing is, you hear that all the time right now. If you want to sell more, you have to share more of your story. So you're not sharing to share like the personal stuff. It's just because, if I tell you that this pen had a full story behind it, that it saved life and provided money to whatever, if I give you a story behind how this pen came out to life and what it means for some people on the planet, you want to buy the pen, right? So this is how a lot of multi-level marketing companies do. They have a story, they sell a product, but they sell the story behind it, so that you buy more than just a product, you buy actually the story. So stories are essentials to ensuring the success of your business, and I'm working a lot on this lately. And I want to share with you because I want to practice them with you. You are my community, and I just hope that it's gonna inspire you to do the same and see the impact. Because again, today, one of my clients, I said, okay, I'm gonna write a post for you, but do you have a story with a grandfather that went through the war and has something that is really important to her business? I said, oh yeah. And she started to send me a full story, and then we crafted a post. So it was promoting her business in the name of her grandfather in a way that was so genuine and very emotional that, it's more than just buying her services now. It's going to be buying her lifestyle, buying where she's coming from as a person on earth. So let's go. So this is how I started my story. That's my story here, guys. It's how I started like a broke new mom. What happened, Angelique? Well, that happens, life happens. I was, and I always like to give a flashback. And I realized like this clearly this morning, actually, that I can put a name on it. I went from achieving an amazing dream of mine that I call now dream number one, right? Dream number one. Okay, I'm gonna bring back Instagram here. Dream number one was amazing. It took 15 years in the making, and I got there. And it brought me to Canada, and it brought me to do the job that I was dreaming of when I was 8 as a camera person for a very famous broadcasting company that there is in Canada. So dream number one was done after 15 years of working on it. So I fell in love with my husband. We just had a baby, and then life happens. My husband has to move to another place, so I have to quit my job. That was a well-paying job, was my dream job. But at the time, and you don't know until you go through stuff, right? At the time, after almost 15 years, I think, being in the news, I realized a little voice in the back of my mind saying, oh my God, I'm always sharing others' stories. And especially when I was interviewing amazing women thought leaders, I was like, oh, wow, that girl, she gets it. And I was just reporting with my camera, my mic, writing the stories for the news. And in the back of my head, I knew there was a voice saying, I want to share my story, but I wasn't sure what part of my story should I share, right? So that's life happens. We move. I resigned from my dream job. And of course, so that's when I need to switch my slide here. Move, resign, new job, cut. So dream one is accomplished. I could show you again here. Dream one is accomplished. I feel so something in the back of my head that it's happening for a reason, but you don't know when you don't know, so it's very scary, right? And then, so wherever we moved, I found a job where I was helping people again to share their message as a public relations specialist in the world, in the political world. So again, I was behind the scene helping those public figures to show up in a way that would be in favor of the public, and they would be positioned as rock star in the news. So amazing experience, like being from being, you know, the one who interviews politicians to working with politicians. So I could see both sides of the middle, but then still, I was still not, you know, I was still behind the scene, not sharing my message. I was shaping their message. And I was working with men and women, but again, through that arena, I found that I met an amazing female thought leaders, and I was like, wow. And I remember that. It's easier now to remember that really shaped, you know, what's going to happen next, right? But you have to go through shit before you get where you want to go. So here's the shit happening for me. I lost my job twice. Cut my job. My position was cut twice. So the first time you're like, okay, that's what it is to be unemployed. Oh, good. There is we have a employment insurance here, so it's not too bad at first. But then you go into debt, you know, and then the feeling when you get and you lose everything, no more money comes in, and you feel like almost like a fraud. You don't contribute to pay the bills. You're like, holy moly, now the full, you know, household is on my husband. So you feel like really crappy. It's very hard for the ego. But I had to, so I went through that. And then the second time, so I go back to another job, cut again. And this time I was like, okay, I'm going to be actually the type of unemployed person who's going to make a job out of being unemployed. So literally, and I don't know why I did this, but it was a very hard time, like where I was picking up every penny on the floor to be able to kind of rent a table in a coffee shop where I would set up every day, like if it was a 9-to-5 job, I would go to that coffee shop because I'm a coffee shop girl. And, you know, even unemployed, I was like, I got to find the cheapest coffee and sit at a coffee table. And I was renting my table with one coffee a day. But my goal at the coffee shop was to observe people who were like workers, most of them employees, workers coming to the coffee shop. Some of them would see me every day and started to come and talk to me. So I was asking them, you know, about what they were doing. I was telling them that I was unemployed looking for a job. But I was starting to study even more about, you know, what I really want to approach my next job, right? So, and then more and more I was like, there is no way that I'm going to depend on someone who's going to decide, okay, yes, I hire you, and today I cut your salary, you're gone. Like just the idea of not being in control of who says, yes, you can get money versus no, that's it, bye. So this is when, you know, at that coffee shop, talking to so many people every day, reaching out to so many people, I'm like, this is not right. I'm going to create my own wealth. And I'm going to be the one, you know, struggling. Let's struggle in a way that at the end of the game, you are your own boss. So that's what I did. And the thing is, like, you know how you feel when I don't know if you've been unemployed, let me know. I would love to know. But you feel that there is no more oxygen, right? So no more oxygen, no more cash coming in. bills piling up, credit card going up, like maxing up. So, and I love, road trips, and I have my family in France. And I remember when I left France 20 years ago, I said, you can move, Angelique, but promise me that you will always go and visit your family to spend time with them. So all of this was shutting down in front of my eyes. And then, so I'm like, what's left? There's just my man and my little man, which was 1 year or 2 years old at the time, or 6 the second time. And then my passions. So at the time, I was a lot into cooking. And so this is when, when you're an employee, you have more time to cook, I guess. But I felt stuck, right? Trying to figure out, I had so many skills, I have so much experience in communication, journalism. I did a bunch of, studies and university and stuff, but how do you turn that into a business? No idea, right? So it was a learning curve for me. So I stumbled upon Brendan Burchard, and he saved my soul, because if you don't know him yet, I read his book called The Charged Life. So, which is like, no matter what you have or haven't, how to still show up with joy, right? So in my condition, it was like, not only, keep living joy, even though it's hard because you worry about money and stuff. But the second thing that it teaches you is, how can you turn your passion in a monetizing thing? Okay. So this is what got me back on, like, okay, here we go. That's how you do it. But, testing businesses around different stuff, putting my own money that was left from the past in the business with no success, because I was not a business person. And then I said, okay, I need to find a funding stuff, someone to help me fund my business. And I remember that day. We had meetings. It was a meeting room with a bunch of people that seemed to know exactly what they were doing. And for me, I was like, with my little cooking business, I had no idea, beside cooking, healthy stuff and gluten-free and vegan, I knew all those stuff. I've learned so much around that, but I didn't know anything about business. So they fill up the form. So I start to fill up the form, and then at this, maybe page 3 of was kind of a business plan. And then at page 3 says, how are you going to market your products? What does that mean, market, anyway? And then the subsection was like, what social media presence do you have right now? And for me, it was like, I had barely a Facebook profile that I never used. And I was like, oh my God, I'm screwed. I don't know what marketing is really, like what it entices. And then social media, I am absolutely not present. And it was like mandatory for the funding application. So I'm like, okay, go back to my Brendan Burchard mindset. I'm going to learn it. So I remember that night, I go on Google, classes about marketing, but it's like all those gurus, social media gurus teaching this and that and this and that, overwhelmed. And then I said, okay, should I go to university again to learn business? And then I realized that we don't really learn business in a business university, right? I don't know if you agree, but now that I know more, I'm like, oh my God. It's like learning to be a doctor. They don't really know about outside of the doctor's thing. So someone reached out to me, bang, after that epiphany I had, at the funding agency about, my God, I need to learn social media. Then someone reached out to me, like, no kidding, the day after. A friend of mine and a colleague of mine, still a colleague of mine. And yeah, because in case you don't know, I'm still a full-time employee. I'm still like building my business, but so much has changed because of all those stuff that I'm telling you, right? So, hi, Kishal, Jeannie, Lynn. Hi, guys. Oh my God. So thank you for being here. So, okay. So my friend said, Angelique, I know you're looking for a job. No, I don't want a job anymore. I want a business. Nobody gonna cut my wage anymore. That's it. I'm gonna do my own money, and nobody's gonna decide to switch it off at any time. She said, no, but look. So I look, and it says social media specialist. I'm like, are you kidding? I don't know anything about social media. But she said, look at all the other requirements. You have this exponentially, like multiple by 10. I'm like, yeah, but I don't know anything about social media. And then she says, you can learn. I'm like, yeah, that's exactly what I want to do. And I'm like, bing. Okay, I applied. I went with my Brandon Burchon mindset. I got the job at the social media specialist who didn't know what a hashtag was. But I got the job because of all the other things I had in me, right? Plus, I love learning, and they felt that. But it felt like the Mount Everest. You see that slide here? Here we go. That felt like this. Yeah, exactly. Like, I don't know how to describe it better than that, but it felt like really, really crazy. So how am I getting there? So the question I had is like the struggle, like huge struggle, because remember my promise to myself was like, I won't work anymore for someone who's going to cut me, right? And say goodbye, and then have all that impact on my family. Like, it's so stressful, right? To be kind of poor again. So I was like, okay, I told my family that I can do a business, and then I'm going back to work. So I was wondering, how this would land, like what type of support I would, because I really believe at the time that I wanted to build my own legacy. And so I decided that, I had to take the challenge. So I did it, and not only I learned about social media, and it was like super intense, but it was a total epiphany number 2 for me, to the point that I heard myself, and I still say it, that everybody should be on social media. And that's not something I would have told you like back in, when was that, 2007? Yeah, you see? So everybody should be on social media, because this is what I learned. So this is when something happened that was interesting. I'm trying to put my, here we go. I don't know if you see enough, but I started to run, friends. It was the beginning where friends saw that I loved it so much. They started to come to me and say, okay, can you help me with my social media? Can you? And I loved it so much. And I knew the potential for them to go crazy. So I started to help friends or people I knew, running ads for them. I was, they had results, making money with it. And the thing that struck me the most is when I was showing them how to share their message with the world on social media, and the impact it had either in the comments or when people were meeting them later in the street and talking to them, and they were like sharing their stuff. This is what brought me back to remember that little voice I had when I had to kind of leave the journalism world, because I thought that it was my turn to share my message. But I was back with those women who I could see in their eyes when they were sharing their message, like who they were and why they were doing their stuff, and how the impact it had, and how it kind of as a boomerang brought back money for their family, for their message, for their legacy. So I'm like, okay, that was for me like so thrilling. But I'm like, okay, what if I help women to share their message and make money with it, as I develop my own message and make money with it, right? So this is what happened. I did 1 + 1, because remember, my goal was like, okay, I want to share my message, and I want to build my legacy. I want to achieve my financial freedom. And what if I do their message? I help them with their message, their legacy, and their financial freedom. So this is how things have started. And at first, I had no idea of how to build a business around this, because remember, I was in the cooking stuff. So I had to have new plans, and I was on a mission. I felt very strong about helping women leaders, women with businesses, women with a message, even if they had nothing to sell. How, like, it's so powerful to use social media and share a message. So this is when I created Social Media Love. And when I first started, no kidding, I was paid with apples. People were paying me with apples. And then now my offers are 5 figures. And I'm telling you, when I started back, I don't know, 2013, 2015, I would have never guessed that, right? Because the thing I didn't know at the time, and this is where, you know, the struggle I had to go, like, so I had hit like an epiphany that, yeah, that's my mission. I'm going to share my message to help other women share their message. And then had to learn how you do that. Because it's one thing to use social media. If you just use social media to build a business, that doesn't work, right? You need the foundation. So this is, you know, I invested in so many coaches. I'm still investing in so many business coaches, and the kind of global aspect of things is that it helped me to build a system that taught me how to sell. And it's not easy, right? But before you sell, you need to have an offer, which I didn't have at first. Like, I didn't sell anything specific. I was like, oh, I'm going to help you. But now things are way more specific. And I attract people, we call that leads, that really want, you know, that type of services. And then have a system for selling that to them. Like, this video is one of them. You know, social media is part of your sales system. It actually brings people from the online world to your sales system, right? So I started with one woman at a time, like one-on-one, from daycares, orchards, speakers, conference organizers, event organizers, MLMs, like boutiques, and then e-commerce, stuff like that, like diverse, right? But all women with a message, thriving for a message, thriving for the 6-figure, right? So, and then I'm like, okay, Angelique, remember your legacy, your message, your wealth. I have to switch to impact more person, right? And this is what came out this year. It's very new. And so this is how I started, you know, as a journalist, and how I decided that, you know, my message would be through their message here. And now we have a group coaching. It's called the Audience DNA Lab, where it's multiple women who's going to be going through how to set up your foundation on social media so that you feel solid, you feel good with how you show up, you know who you talk to, and you know where your ideal audience is, and you even kind of start selling on social media through your social media platforms. So that's a 10-week program as a group. So that's why I'm super excited to offer that to you if that's something you're interested in. But I wanted to share the story because, you know, it takes a long time to build something, and you have a lot of discovery and struggles and epiphanies to go through, right? But then when it kind of makes sense, it happens. So this is why I decided to set up the Audience DNA Lab, so that we can gather 5 to 10 women, thought leaders, business owners, entrepreneurs, whoever has, you know, something to sell, and how you sell it with your story, how you sell it to the right people, and how you actually even start using ads in a way that brings back money to you, right? So let me know if that speaks to you. Let me know your story too, right? Tell me if you have a video somewhere online where you share your story. And if you haven't yet, and you want to share it personally, I would love, you can just do it on Messenger. We can have a chat. I would love to hear your story, okay? I have to go now, but thank you so much for being here. Hi, Aridas. Thank you so much for being here. And I hope this was at least entertaining and inspiring, okay? Ciao, ciao. how stop sharing. Stop. Here we go, guys. Now I can bring you back first screen here. Ciao, ciao.